This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 3, verse 17. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. Giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai.
What I'm about to show
Kodash. And double honor to mighty church, the apostles, the elders, and the bishops of Great Millstone, who watch over our souls. Shalom to the Yakim, Roy, the Dar, sincere and serious doing the will of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Kodash. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. To you all, stay strong and stay mighty. I'm the brother, the disciple Koshar Benjamin from the branch in Great Millstone, Barbados. You need to listen.
Is arguably the biggest story in the world right now, in my opinion, but it's being totally ignored by the mainstream media. Of course it is. They don't want you to know about it because it will upend the global world order. I'm going to show you all of the new data and the info in a minute. But first, the U.S. just announced they're getting ready for war with China and Russia simultaneously, because we can't just do one without the other, right? See, this is what happens when people start to lose power. They get very dangerous, and the U.S. is quickly losing power.
Y'all hear that? So this king that you trust in is losing power. Go straight in a minute. Revelation 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Let me let you hear what the man said again. Alright?
Week, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin can't just do one without the other, right? See, this is what happens when people start to lose power. They get very dangerous, and the U.S. is quickly losing power.
Right, so what that means is that the war, America, Babylon the Great, is going to come down with great wrath. You see? Upon Ooh, he's going to come down with great wrath, because no one likes to lose power. And when people lose power, or when they're losing power, they become dangerous, they become cutthroat, they become conniving, right? They become, what's the word looking for, man? What's the word looking for? Man, they become dangerous, man. They follow all the stops to keep the power. And the US is no different.
What I'm about to show you is arguably the biggest story in the world right now, in my opinion, but it's being totally ignored by the mainstream media. Of course it is. They don't want you to know about it because it will upend the global world order. I'm going to show you all of the new data and the info in a minute. But first, the U.S. just announced they're getting ready for war with China and Russia simultaneously, because we can't just do one without the other, right? See, this is what happens when people start to lose power. They get very dangerous, and the U.S. is quickly losing power. This week, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced their new 2024 military budget, which aims directly at China. And get this is unbelievable. It includes a 40% increase in spending to attack China. The Pentagon recently said China is, quote, the most comprehensive and serious challenge to the U.S. national security strategy. Here's Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin pushing for this new China war funding.
This is a strategy-driven budget, and one driven by the seriousness of our strategic competition with the People's Republic of China. This budget will help us continue to implement our 2022 National Defense Strategy and the President's National Security Strategy.
So the U.S. national security is under attack because China is becoming an economic superpower. They want you to believe that your house and your backyard are going to have Chinese soldiers in it very soon. This is how they will scare you. Better watch out if you're grilling in your backyard barbecue, because some Chinese soldiers are about to steal your hot dogs. They really want you to be scared. They're doing a good job of it.
In order to protect the American people, readiness now and readiness in the future through modernization is our number one priority, and there is no other number one. Right now, the international system is under stress. For the first time in our nation's history, the United States is facing two major nuclear powers whose vital national security interests are in competition with the United States.
They are hoping that you'll be scared, so you'll want to go to war to protect your hot dogs. or your hamburgers. Even Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing this threat narrative, playing on the fear of a Chinese attack.
My view in terms of U.S. national security is that our number one threat by far is China and the CCP. They're strong militarily, they're strong economically, they've got the largest industrial base in human history, and they have ambitions.
So everyone is on board with this threat, and we need to spend billions more in this new budget to protect you. That's what they're telling you. They're calling it their Pacific Deterrence Initiative. That's the name of it. Deterrence. That's a good one. We're going to deter China and Russia by provoking them in their freaking backyards. The United States this week announced 4 new military bases will be built in the Philippines. The goal of these bases is for war with China. That brings the total number of U.S. military bases to 754 worldwide. Can you imagine? The United States has 754 military bases around the world. Just wrap your heads around that for a moment. But it's all just to deter them. They think we're stupid. The Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Zhang warned earlier this month that if the U.S. doesn't change its course on its military buildup in the Asia-Pacific and other policies aimed at China, it will lead to conflict and confrontation. So Washington has a death wish, and they're going to get us all killed if they don't want to back off. But they won't because of what I'm about to show you, and this is the most important part. So the United States just announced it's getting ready for war with China and Putin at the same time for a very important reason. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin are about to completely alter the international power structure and the monetary system. This is why they're getting ready for war. No other reason. The biggest story in the world happened this week in Moscow, and your mainstream media ignored it. This week, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin signed 14 different documents in their face-to-face meeting. The biggest had to do with trade and currency. It's perhaps the biggest story in the world right now, but again, the U.S. media was obsessed with something else.
He could be days away from becoming the first former president to be indicted.
Donald Trump is under multiple criminal inquiries.
If he's about to be arrested, it almost certainly means he's going to be indicted.
The media wants you distracted from the U.S. banking crisis and the decline of the U.S. dollar. Can you imagine? Probably the most important story in the world happened this week, and it almost got no attention. So let me know in the comments if your newscasts in your local markets covered this story. Probably not.
Это как раз сейчас перемены, которые не было в течение 100 лет. Там, где вместе двигаем эти перемены. Берегите, пожалуйста, дорогой друг.
Second Ezra 15, verse 46, and thou Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and not the glory of her person, would be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee. Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. So how the hell how could the Edomites, because Vladimir Putin, he is an Edomite, right? He is an Edomite. So I don't know if you're familiar with the BRICS nations. I'm sorry. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, right? The forming alliances. They are forming an alliance and basically trading everything in I think Russia's currency or the one. I can't remember, but the point is, as you can see, these other nations that joining hand in hand, right, against Babylon, against the whore. But Vladimir Putin, he's also an Edomite. So a kingdom divided shall not stand. So 2 Ezra 15:48, thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Who's that? The Edomites. Because everything they have done has been hateful, hurtful, right? Abominable. Maybe Revelation 17, right? Revelation 17 and 5. You know what? And 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So everything they pour out of this cup is filthy, is dirty, it is evil. It's right? LGBTQ, the children, teaching children about same sex and accept different genders, etc. Just to name a few. So everything in their hand, everything they possess in their hand is abominations. You understand? And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Right, so right, so that is Esau Edom. 2 Ezra 15:48, thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore saith the Most High, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. So not even you Moabites, you Ammonites can get away, man. And the glory of thy power shall be dried up as a flower. The heat shall arise that is sent over thee. So the Lord's gonna, all your works are gonna be dried up, man.
Fox News alert. Russian President Vladimir Putin now speaking in Moscow, where it is 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just after the arrival of China's President Xi Jinping.
This is the first time she visits since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the meeting expected to focus on countering the U.S. and establishing a new world order.
Mark Meredith joins us live from the White House. Mark, good morning.
Rachel, Stephen, Brian, good morning to all three of you. This is the 9th time in the last 10 years that China's president has made a visit to Russia. He touched down in Moscow about 40 minutes ago. He's going to be in Russia for at least 2 days. And later today, in the next few minutes, it looks like he'll be meeting one-on-one with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ahead of the visit, the Chinese are calling Russia a comprehensive strategic partner. We also heard from the Chinese president ahead of the visit. He put out a statement in which he said, quote, we have every reason to expect that China and Russia, as fellow travelers on the journey of development and rejuvenation, will make new and greater contributions to human advancement. While the Chinese are putting out a positive spin for Putin, this trip may offer a major boost. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin just last week. He's also facing enormous pressure back in Russia to change tactics as the war in Ukraine drags on. The White House says this visit is also all about shoring up support between Russia and China as they get ready to challenge the U.S. and its allies on the global stage. Steve, Rachel, and Brian, back to you guys.
And Mark, the White House can't like the fact that essentially this new world order, they're picking up sides. You know, it's China and now Russia and Iran versus the United States, the United Kingdom, NATO, and the rest of the world's up for grabs.
Well, it certainly feels like we're kind of entering this next phase of what some have been calling Cold War 2.0. But also you've seen the U.S. try to counter that narrative. You had the president out west just last week with the British Prime Minister, the Australians, all a sign that they believe that they can counter what's going to be happening between China and Russia. But you're right. It seems like everybody's picking their sides at the moment.
Ultimately, what this comes down to, this strategic meeting today, it's all about guns.
Putin needs this meeting from all sorts of different perspectives. First and foremost, he needs some kind of validation that like an important head of state will see him after being indicted as a war criminal by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. But probably even more important after that is he needs weapons. Russia is running out of weapons. I think more than 3,500 tanks have been destroyed. Aircraft have been shot down. They're running out of artillery. They're running out of drones are getting shot down. They've lost 165,000 soldiers. And so China is probably the only country that can change the complexion of this war. And if they start to supply weapons in large quantities to Russia, that would be really bad for Ukraine and really bad for us.
All right, so let me end this video here with a couple precepts, right? As I let all the videos play through, let you see what times or what seasons we in. It's a race to be world dominance, and all these nations coming against America. With each one thinking that, the next to rule in line, but through the midst of this war that can happen, this third world war, is when our Lord will appear, before all you heathens' eyes, man, But there's Joel 3 verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. And as we've seen happening before, your war is being prepared. The dollar is being devalued every minute. Like, well, soon this economy can collapse, but it's imminent, real thing. Too many videos coming out about what's really going on. While you're being distracted by Trump being indicted, etc., behind the scenes, they're making the moves. And the next currency will be the CBDC, which stands for Central Bank Digital Currency, Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men that are expert at war. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Be your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. That's China, all these weak nations now, the mighty in power, the mighty, because they trade over the years, they got some form of wealth. So they don't really have to take any more dictatorship from America like before. Ghana said we don't want your homosexual agendas here. I think who left somebody? Finland? Who it was, man? I think Finland or France wanted to join NATO, I think it is. I forget, man. Salaki, you know what I mean? But so many things going on, you gotta be able to keep up. Cause that's basically like prophecies coming apart. There's Matthew 24. Matthew 24 and verse. We see here signs of Hamashiach's return. Right? Because our Lord will return. There will be a second coming of the Messiah, and this time he will not meet thee as a man. Before he came as a man, humble and meek and lowly, that lamb without spot and blemish. But when he returns, he's coming back like a lion, full of rage, ready for war. Right? St. Matthew 24 verse 1, and Yahweh went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yahweh said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? the end of this age, because that's what the world means, right? Age or time. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed one. That's what the word Christ means, right? In the Hebrew. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? And that's what we're hearing. Right? See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise up, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. That's what you're seeing. Yes, right? And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrow. So that's what you seeing happening right before your eyes. You know what I mean? Prophecy unfolding. Yes, right? Anyhow, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Shalom.
Relevant with the story. The West is flexing its muscle, and China is not impressed.
The so-called joint military exercises by these countries, strictly speaking, has no impact on China at all. They're just burning a little more oil for themselves.
In a first ever, Japan is being joined by Australia, France, and the U.S. in military exercises in the southwestern part of that country. The drills include fighter jets and amphibious operation exercises, as well as naval maneuvering. Many believe that the activity in Japan is a show of force aimed at China, as Japan works towards expanding and consolidating military alliances in an effort to deter the neighboring superpower. However, it seems that the drills may have been counterproductive in some respects, irritating China instead of working to contain it. According to an editorial in China's Global Times newspaper, the United States will be defeated if it engages in combat with China in its neighboring waters.
Daniel, thank you for the question. There may be an obsession in America about the Chinese activities on the continent, but there's no such obsession here. But China is one of the many countries with whom Ghana is engaged in the world. Your country is one of them. Virtually all the countries of the world are friends of Ghana, and we have relations in varying degrees of intensity with all of them.
We don't accept threats. But it's not President Biden's government, it's the Republicans.
That was Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He was reacting to calls by some U.S. Republicans to send the U.S. military to shut down drug labs in Mexico. Senator Lindsey Graham said he would introduce a new bill to designate Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and authorize the use of military force against them.
We're going to unleash the fury and might of the United States against...
Yep.